Hello and welcome back. You're watching World Talks and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. Thousands of vehicles were left stranded at the Belarusian border after Minsk banned Polish and Lithuanian trucks and tractors from operating on its territory until the end of 2027. The decree of the ban, signed Friday by Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, intensified a worsening standoff that follows Poland and Lithuania tightening their crossings on September 12th in response to joint Belarus-Russia military drills. Joining me to discuss the potential economic consequences and everything else is Artur Kalisiak, Strategic Projects Director at the Transport i Logistyka Poland. Hello, and thank you for joining me on the program.
Hello, good afternoon, or should I say good evening?
Good evening. So as we're looking at the situation that unravels this very moment at the Polish, Belarusian and Polish-Lithuanian borders, how do you think Belarus itself will be affected by the very ban and the decision to not have Polish and Lithuanian trucks and tractors cross through its border?
Well, let me start maybe by clarifying one thing, because unfortunately, the information spread yesterday and today is not fully accurate, because the real issue about the decree from the Belarusian side is that the Polish registered trailers and Lithuanian registered trailers are not able to move forward when it comes to transit of Belarus. So, to be clear on that, it was like 3 or 4 years ago when Belarus decided not to have Polish trucks crossing the state of Belarus. But there is a regulation where our trucks, I mean Polish trucks, can enter Belarus, but only drive to the nearest so-called terminal or the loading-unloading hub, where we can unload the goods, and from that point, usually Belarusian hauliers take the goods and move them forward. Mm-hmm. And this hasn't changed. So still, Polish trucks will be able to enter Belarus with Polish registered trailers, but only to this nearest terminal and hubs to unload the goods and come back with the same border. So let's make that clear. This is not a full ban on Polish registered vehicles. Only it is like a prolongation of this situation that has been for the last 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. We can enter the Belarus, go to the nearest terminal or hub, unload the goods, and come back with the same trailer to Poland. We are not allowed to move any further across Belarus or through Belarus to other countries. So, unfortunately, for many years now, and the main issue is that we need to unload the goods, as I mentioned, at the nearest terminal, and those goods are moved forward by usually Belarusian hauliers, so they make the rest of the road transport service instead of us. And this is the biggest difference. When we cannot make the full transport through the Belarus, we only can enter, leave the goods, unload the goods, and come back to Poland.
So not having that ability to make that full transport a reality for Polish carriers as well as Lithuanian carriers, how do you think it affects both countries in terms of economy, in terms of strategy when it comes to transporting goods? Is there a big fallout when it comes to prolonging that special ban that you just described, or there is not going to be that much fallout at all?
Let's hope it's not going to be any deeper, because every piece of legislation that bans somebody from doing something, in this case, this is a business, and as we are talking about full road transport services, everything that makes our lives difficult, I mean the business operators and so on, it's not, of course, a good sign. In this case, this has a huge effect on the whole Silk Road, to be honest, for example, because there is a big movement of goods between China and Europe, and usually the fastest road and the fastest way would be through Belarus. So instead for our trucks and our hauliers to deliver the goods across Belarus further to Kazakhstan or even China, We are not able to do it, so we are not able to make money from it. We can only enter Belarus for a short period of short distance, and then we need to come back. So somebody else is making those transports and making money of it instead of Polish hauliers in this case.
So that would actually respond to a question about the substantiality of this truck transportation. But where do these go? Let's try and have a mind map of sorts of where these goods are being transported to. So after they are supposed to leave Poland or Lithuania, they get to that transport hub in Belarus. They have to turn back over. These goods from those hubs, where do they go next?
That depends, but usually I would say that the Kazakhstan would be a main destination, because there is a really big exchange of goods between Kazakhstan and Europe. So I would say that the most probably the most popular destination would be Kazakhstan. That could also be confirmed by the situation, for example, from the Kazakhstan side, that the Kazakhstan hauliers would like to have from us, from Poland, and more permits in order to transport goods between Kazakhstan and Poland and other European countries. So that would confirm that there is a big demand on the Kazakhstan haulier side in order to transport more goods.
Mm-hmm. And what goods are we talking about? Mostly,
it's really hard to tell. We can transport everything that is needed, everything that can be, commissioned by the clients. Everything that needs to be transported can be transported without any problem. Sometimes that could be food, sometimes that could be pharmaceuticals, and anything you can name simply can be transported there.
Mm-hmm. I would like to take a look at the words of Povilas Dryžas, who is a Secretary General of Lithuania's International Transport and Logistics Alliance. He said, quote, "Lithuania may gradually disappear from the logistics or trade map. This is no longer just a transport problem." So this is in relation to this partial ban that you've described at the very beginning of our conversation. Such disappearance, is it something that a country such as Lithuania could potentially afford? What are the consequences? What are we looking at here?
Consequences would be hard to imagine and hard to describe. I hope that this statement would not come true, to be honest, because we can observe that Lithuanian hauliers are very active on European market, and of course on the Eastern markets as well, but they are very active on European markets. They have very big hauliers that use, for example, several thousand trucks per company. And I hope that they would not suffer that much as described, because, okay, there are some markets we are not able to enter to the full extension we would like to. But on the other hand, I think that the road transport and logistics sector is so flexible that the best on the market can adapt to the situation that is changing, for example, and to the difficulties that they need to face. So they usually are able to find solutions how to operate on this very, very difficult market. I mean, transport and logistics sector, which is not an easy job and not an easy task to perform on daily basis, usually where the margins are relatively slow.
It seems to be the case that the problem when it comes to transportation between Lithuania and Belarus and Poland does not only come from one way. Obviously, we've seen some incursions when it comes to Belarus and the illegal balloons that were spotted over Lithuania. And we've seen some closures at the very beginning of this month when it comes to Vilnius, for example, making that decision. And as we read, over 2,000 trucks were stranded in Belarus. how is such an issue resolved? Because as we're looking at what Oleg Tarasov from Linava said, it's another company that specializes in transportation. Estimated 60 million euro worth of goods are currently trapped in Belarus, while prolonged delays could cause losses of up to 18 million euros per month. This was the government's decision, but obviously the private sector, when it comes to trade and logistics, is being affected. So how is this going to be resolved if such situations take place, as there is an escalation clearly in that triangle?
That is a very good question, but I think it should be directed, to the politicians and the people in charge who make those decisions. Because we, from the business perspective, the most important is to have a knowledge and to have, sustainable information about what is going on the market, and if we are able to provide our services or no. And if there are any closures, like we had these closures of Polish and Belarusian border, we didn't know back then what would be the period of time when the border would be open again. So it is usually very, very difficult to estimate the numbers when it comes to potential losses and things like that. But usually, as I mentioned, the business would like to have, a clear situation if they are able to provide services or no, because we do not transport our own goods. We transport goods that belongs to our clients. So our clients also need this stability and information if the goods will be delivered on time or no. And while they are blocked for any reasons, usually depending on the political decision, is not up to business to decide, let's say, and to find the solution, because we are ready, we are here, we can provide our services, but sometimes there are different, as you mentioned, for example, situations and different decisions to be made, and we need, unfortunately, in cases like this, we need to adapt and we need to be flexible.
Thank you very much, Artur Kalisiak, Strategic Project Director at the Transport i Logistyka Poland. Thank you so much for joining me on World Talks.
Right. Thank you for having me.
And so this would be all for now. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska. Thank you for joining me for another interview. But please do stay tuned here on TVP World. We're coming back in just a moment with more news and features, and we'll see you there.